How's it going, guys? Today I want to give you a quick update of what's in my bag. Over the past few months, I've been testing out a lot of different discs from a lot of different manufacturers. It's been a very exciting process, and I feel as comfortable with my bag now as I have felt since I made the switch back to Infinite. So today I wanted to give you, again, just a quick update. I'm not going to go through the details of every disc because a lot of these are the same that I've had in my bag for the last several months, even years. And so I'll run through those quickly, but I'll explain a little more in depth some of the new additions to my bag. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to start with the putting putters once again. I'm still putting with Jawbreaker Roaches. These have been my go-to putters for about, 4 or 5 years now. These are just nice and straight, nice and worked in as well. These like to hold a good straight line, plenty of glide. Again, I know what these are going to do every single time, and that's the benefit of using the same putter for so long. So OG Blend Jawbreaker Roaches. As far as throwing putters and approach putters, this has been a part of my game that has seen a lot of changes, but one of the staples in my bag is the Infinite Disc Tomb. I currently have 3 tombs in my bag. I'll start with the Metal Flake one. This is my most stable tomb currently. I use this for slight headwind shots, anything up to about 300 feet that I want just to hold straight, have a nice consistent finish. I go to this tomb. This is probably my go-to throwing putter at the moment. This is just a stock Metal Flake Glow tomb. This one's done, the die on it's done rather by my good buddy Jory Reed. If you haven't checked him out, be sure to check out his stuff. This is my straight flyer. I can throw this on just a slight bit of hyzer. It'll pop up and just ride straight. Tons of glide on this one, and again, probably my go-to throwing putter just because I can get it to do so many different things. And then the last tomb I have is this D-Blend tomb. This has been with me for years now. This thing is beat to death. It doesn't even really want to fly. I use this pretty much exclusively for approach shot. So this was in my last in the bag. Again, doesn't get used a ton off the tee, but one that I love using for approaches just because it is so worked in. Now, getting into some of the new throwing putters that I've been enjoying, for me, I was looking for a premium plastic understable and overstable putter that would complement my tombs. I didn't want to just keep rotating in baseline plastics, and so I think I finally found what I really like in these 3 putters. I'll start with the most understable, and that is the Prodigy PA5 and 400 plastic. This disc is pretty much exactly what I was looking for. It's a low profile putter, feels really good in the hand. I can use this for slight hyzer flips that I want to drift. I can get them to turn over quick, really whatever the shot requires, anything kind of on the understable side. I really enjoy throwing the PA5. So if you haven't checked one of these out and you really like the low profile feel, I would highly recommend checking one of these out. Another disc on kind of a more understable side has been the Yaikun Kang. This is a really, really fun disc to throw. A little bit more stable than the PA5. I can throw this again on a hyzer. It'll stand up and it just kind of wants to drift. Not quite as much of a finish to the right as the PA5. Really good disc for in the woods. My straight flying tomb wants to pop up and ride straight. A little bit of finish. This will want to pop up and just kind of hold, maybe slightly drift to the right the entire way. So really fun disc. Lots of glide on this one as well. And then the last one I have, this is my more overstable putter. This is a Hooligan Disc Cash. Again, very low profile. It does have a bead on the bottom. Feels very similar to a tomb, but I would say has a little more of a rounded edge to it, but a nice overstable flight to it. This has been a disc that as soon as I threw it, I was pretty confident that it was going to stay in the bag. So the Hooligan Cash, great overstable complement to the tomb. Really enjoying this one. All right, going into some of my approach discs. This hasn't changed much. I still have the Berg in the bag. This is a disc that I pretty much exclusively use for forehand approach shots. Don't use it for backhand a lot at all. I just really like the consistency of the straight flight it has when I throw it for a sidearm. Really good for, those 200 feet and in type approach shots. So the Glow Berg. I've always got to have a zone in the bag. I still have the same Big Z zone. If you've watched my in the bag before, you know that this disc is one that I rely on a lot for sidearms. So this is what I'm using, about 250 and in for most of my sidearm shots. And then the last one, again, if you watched my last in the bag, you heard me talk about how great the Pro Discus Troija is. This is the most overstable disc in my bag. Very, very overstable. Doesn't go far at all, but it's really good for when the wind picks up and when I need something to kind of spike in and just sit by the basket. So the Pro Discus Troja. All right, let's step up to mid-ranges. This has been another part of my game that has changed. If you follow me at all, then you know that I love the Discraft Buzz. I still have a Buzz in the bag. However, I've been testing out a lot of different mid-ranges, and I've been really happy with what I have currently. I don't have as many mid-ranges as I did before, but I think it's just because of all the different shots I can cover with these 3 discs. And I'll start with the Midnight Prowl 2. This is a Discmania Origin. Very low profile feel, a little bit more lower profile than some of the other mid-ranges I've thrown, but this thing goes extremely far for a mid-range. This is more of my straight to understable mid-range. I use this for hyzer flips that I want to pop up and finish to the right. Really good for tailwind shots. I can probably get this one up to 350. I mean, it just has a ton of glide on it. All you got to do is get a nice smooth release on it and it will do exactly what you need it to do. So the Midnight Prowl 2, definitely a great surprise and a really good addition to my lineup. Of course, I do still have the same ESP Buzz that I've had. This has been with me for I think about 4, maybe 5 years now. Dead straight flyer, a lot more stability than the Midnight Prowl, so I can rip on this hard. It'll just go straight. Have a little bit of a late finish if I need it to, but if I really crank on this, it just kind of finishes straight. So really my go-to mid-range still. I love the Buzz and love the consistency in the flight of it. And then a new addition to my bag that has also been a really good surprise has been the Prodigy Disc Archive. This is the Isaac Robinson Tour Series or Signature Series disc. Really, really a big fan of this disc. It is a very similar feel to a Buzz, but a lot more stability to it. I was playing in Atlanta, Georgia for quite a while. That's where I learned how to play disc golf, and I've been watching Isaac Robinson play since he was 13 years old, and this kid has been tearing up the scene. So it's really cool to see him now be a world champion, and I'm really happy to support Isaac. But beyond that, this is just an incredibly good disc. So if you are looking for something like a Buzz but more stability, I would highly recommend checking out the Prodigy Archive. Big fan of this disc. All right, let's step up to the fairway drivers. I'll start with my most understable. Still have the Jackalope in the bag. Nice understable fairway driver. Use this a lot in the woods for those hyzer flip shots. Not much else to say about that. Really good disc. Another disc that I revisited, and I'm so glad that I did, and that is the Discmania FD. This is one of the old Innova made ones. I've been able to have a little bit of a stash of these. I used to be an FD thrower a long time ago, and I'm so glad that I decided to revisit this because this thing goes extremely far for a fairway driver. It's a 7-speed, but the 6 glide is a definite on this one. I use this for shots in the woods as well as out in the open, but it flies a lot like my straight flying Tomb, my Buzz, and now I have something just like those 2 discs in a fairway form. So the FD, can't say enough good things about it, especially if you can get your hands on these old Innova run ones. I think these are the best ones out there. So the Discmania FD. Going up in speed a little bit, still have my Sphinx in the bag. I lost the one that I had currently in my bag, the one that was in the previous in the bag video, but I'm thankful that I was able to get another first run Zoe Andike Sphinx. These are my favorite. I just love the chalkiness of the feel of this disc. But this is still the one that I go to in the woods when I want to throw something close to 400 feet. Very nice and controllable. Can get it to stand up and and drift to the right. Get a late finish at the end. A little bit more stability than something like my Jackalope, but definitely a little bit farther flying than something like the Jackalope or the FD. So the Sphinx, really good staple in the bag. Another disc that I'm liking, I don't believe I had this one in the bag in the last video, but one that has really surprised me has been the Glow Dynasty. I was trying out the Dynasty for a little bit, and I wasn't really liking it in some of the other plastics, but this Glow plastic one is the perfect stability that I've been looking for. I can throw this and get it to stand up slightly, but has a lot more finish to it at the end of the flight. This flies for me like a CD2, which is what I used to throw back in the day. And I think this is exactly what that flies like. So the Glow Dynasty quickly become one of my favorite additions to my bag. I use this disc a ton, and I look forward to trying it out in some more plastics now that I'm a little more familiar with it. Still have my overstable staples. I have the Firebird for forehand shots and backhand when the wind picks up. Get this one to stretch just a little bit farther. Firebird is an essential disc for me. And then I have my Glow Scepter, which is basically just a little more overstable. These were both in the bag in the last video. This Glow Scepter is nice and flat, very overstable, very consistent in the wind. Another addition to my bag has been the Splatter S-Blend Aztec. When I lost my Sphinx, this was actually what replaced that. I was very surprised at how similar they flew. I'm finding just a little bit of a difference between the Sphinx and the Aztec. There may be a chance that one of them wins a slot in the bag and I don't keep both of them, but for now, they both have their place. The Aztec is one that I'm really surprised at how far it goes. This is a great in-between disc between a fairway and a distance driver. I threw this one the other day on a hole that was 410 feet. Had no idea that I could get there with a 10-speed disc, but this thing just keeps going. So the Aztec was a great surprise for me. I wasn't expecting this to make the bag, but this is kind of a hyzer flip up for me. A little bit of drift, a little more finished than something like the Sphinx. So before, I was talking about how I really enjoyed the PD. And the PD for me has just been one of those discs that I've thrown for years. It's always been that perfect slot for me, that 10-speed overstable, not quite as overstable as something like a Firebird. And before I was having like the Roman in my bag. I think I had another PD, but I just went back to what I know. And that is the disc that for me is probably my favorite run of PD ever. And that is the Grady Shoe bottom stamp PD. I had this in the bag when I first made the switch back to Infinite, and then I took it out once I was just trying out different ones, but I just haven't found any that fly quite like this one, and I'm very excited to have this back in the bag. I throw this disc probably more than just about any disc besides maybe my Tomb and of course my putting putter. So this is a staple. This is a disc that I go to, again, probably more than any other disc. It's just incredibly reliable. It goes far and it's consistently overstable and fights the wind. So the Discmania PD, love these Grady Shoe version ones. So if you have any of these and you're looking to get rid of them, make sure to hit me up. All right, let's step up to distance drivers. I'll start with the disc, once again, that is considered a distance driver, but it doesn't go far at all, and that is the Slab. This is one of those clear, flat X-out slabs. I'm very sad to say that I lost my very first one, which was a disc that I've had with me since the beginning of my time with Infinite. I recently lost it. It was starting to get pretty broken in, which for that disc basically just means that it was starting to fly. But I had to put a brand new one in the bag, and guys, this thing does not want to fly. I mean, it's so overstable. It's a lot like my Pro Discus Troja, but in a driver form. So I can probably get it to go a little farther than that, but overall, it's pretty much the same disc, but just in a driver form. I use a lot more for like skip shots. If I want to throw something more vertical, kind of up and down, that's what I'll use this for. But this one is just insanely overstable. I keep forgetting how overstable these things are right out of the box, but really happy to have this in the bag. All right, so the distance drivers that actually fly. Let's talk about the Wraith, because this is one. If you watched my last in the bag, you heard me raving about this one. Go-to sidearm disc. This is what I'm using for just pure sidearms up to about 400 feet. Very stable, but tons of glide on this thing. I can throw it as hard as I want. I don't have to worry about it burning over into the ground. I know it's going to come back and get me a nice, consistent finish. So Halo Wraith, go-to sidearm disc for sure. Let's talk about some new additions to the bag. These are the brand new Infinite Disc Conquerors. If you haven't heard about these are supposed to be the old Innova-made PD2s. So if you're a fan of the old PD2, definitely check out a Conqueror. I've tested these out a little bit. I'll have a video coming out soon about these. I got one in the swirly S blend and one just C blend. And these things are nice and overstable. Definitely just like an old PD2, something more overstable than something like a Wraith or a Destroyer. I can really torque over on these on a sidearm, and I know that they're gonna come back and finish hard over to the right. The S blend, this is only a 170. Still overstable, don't get me wrong. It still has plenty of stability to fight the wind. And then I've got a max weight C blend. The C blend is a little bit more noticeably overstable than the S blend, but really just kind of have these in the bag to test out. Maybe one of them will make the bag, but so far I'm really enjoying both of them. All right, and then you already know what's coming. My favorite disc that is probably in the Infinite lineup besides the Tomb. I think the Tomb might be my favorite disc ever. It's the most consistent. I love every single plastic it comes in, and I could say the same probably about the Fairway. So currently I have 5 different Fairways in my bag. Probably a little excessive, but I love having these different ones for different situations, and I have some just in case I were to lose any. I like making sure I have some that I know I can throw. I know exactly what it's going to do. Let's start with the understable. I have this old second run, which is my favorite run of the Fairway. That basically just means that this is the pop top S blend run. This one right here is nice and broken in. I use this for big turnover shots, any kind of tailwind shot. If I've got a big open field, this might be the one I reach for if there's not too much wind and I want to just get max distance. This thing is a perfect hyzer flip turnover driver, goes very far for me. Still have the same halo one. This is my straight flyer, a little bit of drift to the right, a little bit of late flip, and late fade coming back. Nice and big flyer for me. This one is one that I reach for quite a bit, especially in the woods. This is a new disc for me, but it's by no means a fresh disc. This is a used second run Fairway. I had this sent to me by a buddy who was on the team with me. This one is, again, nice pop top. It's a little broken in, which is exactly what I was looking for. This thing is slightly more stable than the Halo one, so I can rip on this with a nice bit of hyzer, and it's just going to stand up and ride and then get a late finish at the end of the flight. These things, if you've ever thrown a Fairway, then you know that these things go far just because of the glide that they have. And that's exactly what I love this one for. I can just get it to pop up, ride straight, get a late finish. I put a pretty fresh second run Fairway in the bag. This is actually kind of stable for a Fairway. I can rip on this thing as hard as I want. It might flip up a little bit, but overall it actually is pretty overstable. So for a Fairway, I've been really impressed with how stable this one is. I would not throw it into a headwind, but if I've got a slight crosswind, or definitely if I've got a tailwind and I need something to go left, I'll make sure to throw this one. It goes extremely far for me, and again, just a great consistent driver. And the last one I have is the Metal Flake Color Glow. This is one of the early runs of the Metal Flake Color Glow Fairways. This is one that is starting to get a little more broken in. I'm trying to decide exactly where it is in terms of stability compared to the other ones. But for right now, it's still on the more stable side for Fairways, but it is starting to get a little bit of flip up to it. But this is kind of interchangeable with the last Fairway I showed you. I just like having an extra one just in case I were to lose one. I know that I've got one fresh, ready to go. So the Metal Flake Color Glow Fairway. The last disc that I've been messing around with, this is an Innova Star Boss. It's got a nice pop top to it. Before the Fairway ever came out, before I had any business actually throwing a Boss, this was my primary distance driver. I found a lot of these lightweight pop top Bosses, and what I would do is I would just crank over on these things on a big amount of anhyzer. And what I was loving about these is that they would actually go far just because the amount of glide you could get under them, and they were so incredibly fast that it kind of compensated for my lack of arm speed. And so I was really impressed with this. I would not recommend it to any new players to do that kind of method. But now that my arm speed's a little bit better, now that I'm throwing farther than I did when I was really throwing these before, I'm really starting to find a great use out of these. And so what this is used for is really kind of more like an overstable Fairway. I don't use it a ton, but I know that if I throw this thing for a backhand, it's going to go straight, but it's going to have a really quick fade to it. Once that speed starts to slow down, the Fairway will just want to keep gliding, whereas the Boss, once it starts running out of speed, it definitely has more fade at the end. But this thing goes extremely far, will definitely hold up to the wind, and I'm really happy that I rediscovered what the Boss can do for my game. But guys, that's it. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what was in my bag. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about any of these discs. As always, make sure to go to infinitedisc.com to pick up any of these. And guys, again, I appreciate you for always watching these videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.